Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I'm coming to you live from Florida. And today is Monday, so it is book club day. Right now we are reading The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we're just finishing up chapter 3. Whether this is your first time coming across this or you've been joining every single week, it does not matter. Everything we're discussing is insightful, whether you're just stumbling upon this. I would actually encourage you to listen in because today the discussion is all about problems, where they come from, how we're actually creating them, how to deal with them, doesn't matter what it is. So if you're joining me live, let me know when you are here, because I know many of our book club members jump on live with me. If you're catching the replay, let me know you're catching the replay. The chat is always open for questions, comments, like bump this up against your own experience, because what Eckhart Tolle shares, whew, is so good. Hey Charlotte, good to see you. Glad you're here. If you have the book, we kind of split up the chapter 3. So we are on page 49, and this part starts at where he says negativity and suffering have their roots in time. All right. So last week, just to kind of fill everybody in, he talked about the difference between psychological time and clock time, meaning like, yeah, time exists and like, it's afternoon for me now. It's morning where Charlotte is, right? Time is always passing. Hey, Marie. But psychological time jumps in when we our mind starts to have opinions about what's going on. Our mind is thinking about the future. Our mind is thinking about the past. And that's where a lot of the problems come from. So this book is, amazing. I think we could sit and talk about one page for forever. Hey, Juliet, good to see you. So I would like to just start off with this question. Who feels like the same things always happen to them? Like, for example, I was on a call this week with someone, and she was sharing with me this weekend, she was sharing with me that her whole life, everyone always displays disloyalty. She said, it happened to me in my college job. It happened to me when I got into real estate. It happened to me in my most recent job. And she was sharing with me as if like, everyone is disloyal, and this is the experience that, is just life. And it was interesting watching, because as a coach and mentor, like I work with a lot of people, and everyone always tells me that there's a different issue and problem that's always popping up. And, I'm able to have the awareness to say like, this is in your world, it's popping up, probably because you have something going on. So is there anyone, like for me, for a long time, it was in relationships, and it was like, all of these relationships, like my worth is not being like seen and felt. And, I was always blaming the other person. And then, I realized, oh, not them, it's me. I'm like attracting it in. And same with this person with the loyalty thing. It's like, hey, like you're being presented with a gift again and again and again. And I could talk about countless examples with conversations I've had with people of like, they're running into the same thing in business, in sales. If you keep hitting an objection like, well, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. It's too expensive. That's because somewhere in you feel it's too expensive. And so the person's picking that up within you. So Marie says she struggled with this too. Yeah, there are some things. So he says, if your mind carries a heavy burden of the past, you will experience more of the same. The past perpetuates itself through lack of presence. The quality of your consciousness at this moment is what shapes your future. So think about it like this. The seed that you're planting now with your mind, with your thoughts, with the way you're believing the world to be, you're actually sowing the seed of that to then grow into, a sprout and grow up into, we'll call it a tree. And that tree is your future. So if you're believing right now, everyone is always disloyal, loyalty is like, no one has it these days. Like you are sowing the seeds of creating that future because you're believing that to be true. You're literally, like right now, that's not true. In this very moment, there's no truth to that statement if you're in the now. But if you allow yourself to go to the past, you might find evidence of this from your own experience. But if you keep it in the present moment, you're planting the seed. That's what he's telling us. He's basically saying, like, if you allow your past to hang around and to come with you and to perpetuate. You will perpetuate the same problems until you finally go, oh, I'm the one that brought that here into the future, which is, the present moment. He says, if it is the quality of your consciousness at this moment that determines the future, right? If I'm planting the seed now that's going to grow into my future life later, what is it that determines the quality of your consciousness? So what is it that determines the seed that you're planting? And he says, it is the degree to which you are present, which is why the book is called The Power of Now, right? He says, okay, how many of you, put a 1 in the chat if you experience this. How many of you experience unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry? Put a 1 in the chat if you're like, yep, already today. Or, yep, those things have been in my world. I think if you're a human being, that's what's happened. I think some of you are on a little bit of a delay. So if you're catching this now, jump up to the front to where we are live with everybody. So, okay, so Tina's here with me. So, yeah, unease, anxiety, tension, stress, worry, Juliet saying yes, Marie saying yes. What he says is that if those are the emotions that are coming in for you, it is because, I'm on page 50, Tina, on page 50. If those are the emotions that are coming into you, it is caused by too much future thinking. He says you're not in the present moment. You're literally thinking too much into the future. That's why you have anxiety. You can't solve a problem that doesn't exist. You are worrying about something that may never occur. And there's no root to solve there. And he says that's why you're feeling that way. Now, who has felt guilt? Yeah, I know I have. Who has felt regret? Who has felt resentment? Put a 2. For these ones, let's put a 2. So who has felt grievances, sadness, bitterness? If you have felt any of these things, they're not comfortable to feel, but like we feel them. If you have felt these things, Lou's like, yep, I have. Stacey says, yep, I have. Glad you guys found me over here. Sorry, Instagram's not working. Tina's lots of 2s. So he says, these things that I just mentioned, regret, guilt, grievances, sadness, bitterness, they're all forms of non-forgiveness. And he says that means you're too much in your past. So if in the present moment, these are the feelings that are coming into your space, it is because your mind is in the past. It is because you are too much thinking about the past. And he says the way to get into the present moment, he gets into on the next page, but I really enjoy how he writes this book because he's like answering students' questions. And what I would say, and I know like some people feel this way because I've heard them ask it, well, wait a second, like, no, my current life situation is so terrible, that's why I'm unhappy. It's got nothing to do with my past. It's got nothing to do with my future. Like, right now is simply just miserable. Like, I just had surgery. My so-and-so just passed away. Like now is miserable. And what he says, this is jumping to page 52. What he says is your life situation exists in time. What you're telling me about exists in time, psychological time. There's something in your mind that is saying they like or dislike what's happening right now. The life situation is mind stuff, how you're interacting and reacting to it. He says life is real. And if you want to get back to the reality of the now, he says use your senses fully. I know a lot of people do this with kids. When kids are upset, they're like, hey, can you find something blue? What's blue in the room? Oh my gosh, that's blue. The door's blue. What do you see that's blue? Like you bring the attention from all the mind stuff that's so upset and going so crazy and so wild, and you bring it so focused to the present of what's around you. Light, shapes, colors, textures, being aware of the space that's actually holding everything, listening to sounds, doing all of this with non-judgment, not, oh, I like the music that's playing, or I don't like the music, just, oh, there's music. Oh, the window's open. There's light coming in. Not, oh, it's, making the house warm. The window needs to be shut. Oh, I don't like that. Oh, who left the window open? Oh, now there's bugs inside. It's not that. It's just simply what is. He's saying this will help you to get past the problem. You just simply need to figure out what's going on. Observe the rhythm of your breath, right? Breath can be a beautiful thing to bring you into the present moment. All right. And that's where now, he's not saying ignore what's in front of you. He's saying if you have all this mind chatter going about the life situation, your life energy, your life force is being burnt up in the mind, and you can't even do your best in the present moment to address it because you're so stressed out. And when you're stressed out, you're of no use to anybody, especially yourself. Okay? High five me if this is making sense. Put a 5 in the chat if you're like, oh, are you getting it? Or do you have questions on this? Because this is like nuanced. And I think this is where most people take like a spiritual teaching and they say it doesn't work in reality. Like it's nice if I'm just meditating all the time, I can be present, but reality, it doesn't actually work. Okay, high five me if you're with me. Put a question in the chat if you're like, but in this situation, no. Okay, Stacey's with me, Lou's with me. This can be tricky. So, for example, if we go to page 53, he says, if you found yourself in paradise, it wouldn't be long before your mind would say, yes, but. Murray says, I get it, but how do you get there? You get there by allowing yourself to be in the present moment. You get there by shutting off the mind that is having preference and objection to or resistance to whatever is going on. You get there by just accepting what is, by going, the door's blue. Doesn't mean I like that the door is blue, or I don't like it, or that I can, go change the color of it. It's just going, oh, the door's blue. Okay, well, I want a white door, so I'm going to make a white door. Not, God, what were these people thinking? Why did they make it blue? And that's like a silly example. So where it gets harder is, this is an intense one here in the U.S., killings, school shootings. Right? How can you tell me that that's not a problem? Right? I think any reasonable human being would say, time out, Eckhart Tolle. School shootings are a massive problem. That's a problem. There are parents that are worried to send their children to school because of this. It's a problem. That's child's life is maybe in danger. That's a problem. That's something that I can't be okay with. And what the spiritual teaching says is acceptance does not mean you condone it. Okay? So acceptance means I don't get right about it in my head. I don't say this is unfair, this is not how it should be, this is a problem, this isn't okay. I get emotional because of what's going on with these shootings. This teaching would say, no. Observe it and go, wow, there's a shooting. Without the emotion, without the mantra in the mind of how unjust it is, how unfair it is, however right that might be, morally speaking, it doesn't change the fact that it happened. All it changes is how you're now emotionally feeling in your body. Are you with me? Because if you have an emotional reaction to it, that's your mind. That's getting into mind stuff. It's you're saying that's not fair. That child should have had a longer life. What's going on? What we're saying is you have to accept what is as it is. The door is blue. The shooting occurred. Now, from the space of acceptance where I'm not emotional, where I'm not running around screaming at people, crying, making a mess of myself internally and stressing myself out and probably all the people around me. No, from a very centered, calm space, now you can say, well, what action could I take that may be able to address something like this happening in the future? Or not happening in the future, I should say, in that example. What can I do now moving forward? Don't cry over spilled milk. The milk is spilled. So now what can I do in the future so maybe it doesn't happen again? Right? Maybe I don't leave it in the reach of a 2-year-old because the 2-year-old is going to spill the milk. So what could I have done differently? Well, I'm not going to yell at the 2-year-old because they're just being 2 and they just spilled the milk. Right, I'm going to think, well, what can I do in the future that may prevent a scenario like that from occurring again? Make sense? Juliet says she practices the Ho'oponopono prayer. what is it? I'm sorry. I love you. Please forgive me. Thank you. Something like that. But this is all the same thing, right? These teachings, the Ho'oponopono prayer, all of these things are teaching us the same root, which is, look, accept what is as is, figure out how you can move forward with it, right? Without judgment, without your own emotional reaction, just staying peacefully centered. So Marie says, but how do you get past it if your mind has always been there forever and ever? It gets better, but at times I am like, how to stop my mind? It's a lot at night. Okay. What he says is become aware. So the way that you interrupt it, because it's programmed, like neural connections are there. You're literally going to have to like rewire. So it doesn't happen instantly, but you win the moment you observe that you're doing it. So you're already on the right path. The fact that you're like, my mind is going there. So in the moment, the way you interrupt it is to go, how's my breath? If I'm thinking about my breath, I can't think about anything else. Now, you might breathe in once, and as you exhale, it all over again. And you just go, how's my breath? Or you say, how do the covers feel on my body? Where am I feeling the sheet? On my toes? On my shoulder? Right? What's the temperature? What's the smell like in the room? Is the fan on? Do I feel the air? You're literally bringing yourself into now. Because whatever your mind is talking about is a future scenario or a past scenario. It's not now. Especially if you're in bed. It's not happening right now. Right now, you're laying in bed in a dark room. So the way to do it, Marie, is literally to cut it. You just say stop. And you bring the mind and you focus it wherever you want. Into something in the present moment. It's really the best way to do it. Okay, that's the how. You literally, he gets into this, let me jump forward. So he gets into this a little bit, maybe better. Where was it? On page 56, he said, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I am doing right now? If there is no joy, no ease, no lightness, right? If you're laying in bed and your mind's going wild, what do? He says, it does not necessarily mean that what you need to change is what you're doing. It may be sufficient to change how. How is always more important than what. See if you can give much more attention to doing than to the result of what you want to achieve through doing it. Give your fullest attention to whatever the moment presents. This implies that you also completely accept what is as is, because you cannot give your full attention to something and at the same time resist it. So what he's saying is, go into how it is that you're doing what you're doing at that exact moment. And that literally cuts off any ability to be in resistance to what's going on, because you're washing your hands. So be washing your hands. Don't be thinking about tomorrow and all the stuff and that phone call and that relative and as you're washing your hands. Knock it off. Oh, wow, the water feels really good. Oh, wow, that soap feels really good. Oh, the pump works really well. Like, that's presence. It's nuanced, right? Because our mind is so used to being chatty. He says, I love this question. He said, why make it into a problem? What makes anything into a problem? Isn't life challenging enough as it is? Why do you need more problems? The mind unconsciously, though, loves problems. So see, Marie, how this fits for you and others listening, because they give you an identity of sorts. Who am I if I'm not my emotions? Who am I if I accept what is as is? If I just let that relative do that? Who am I if I were not to, have care about what they say or what they do? Because our ego, our mind, has no identity if it isn't talking about something. And we think it's normal. Like we grow up and like, oh, it's just normal, right? No. He says, I love this quote. It's from page 53 to 54. He says, this is normal, comma, and it is insane. And I would agree. It is absolutely insane. When you realize that you have the option to get emotional about what you're getting emotional about or not, you will realize that you are literally making yourself crazy. Because you're allowing your mind to go down the crazy thought patterns, right? At night when you go to sleep and the mind just goes, brrr, who's in control? You are. When you realize there's something there beyond my mind. I am that which is witnessing the craziness of the mind. I'm the sky behind the hurricane. I'm witnessing a wild ride right now, but like on the sky, I'm at peace. I'm going to be here when this thing goes through. So you interrupt it. What I do a lot of time, I meditate. I put on a meditation. And I'm like, okay, I cannot quiet my own mind. Sometimes I'll walk outside, I put my feet onto the earth, and I'll just notice what it feels like. Right? Go take a shower. Like, do something that changes your state physically so that you're literally having to be present with what is, and then it can quiet down. You're not going to solve the problem of the mind, Marie, which might be what you're trying to seek an answer about. How do you stop the mind? Is you literally stop it. You just say, I'm going to pay attention to that. It doesn't solve the problem in like the essence of like the answer to what you need to do, but it solves your current problem of being stressed out when you don't need to be. Your mind's stressing you out. Okay? And then once you're centered and you realize, man, I now have control of this wild thing from a centered space, well, what can I move into next? That's going to allow for this situation to be something that is okay in the future. But it is what it is now. Juliet says, you're not your mind, you control the mind. Exactly. I love his example of saying, like, in a life or death situation, there's countless examples of people that are in true emergencies and they just do because they're so totally present. And they're just in the now and they don't question in the mind. They just do. Like I have watched in my business time and time again that when someone gives themselves time and they think, the more they think, the less they do. The less they do, the more they doubt. And the more they doubt, the more they think. And it's this nasty little spiral. And it's not just in business, it's in every aspect of life. And you will ruin yourself if you allow yourself to go down through that. You've got to stay in the present moment. And he actually, in page 56, he's getting into and he's saying, like, humanity is doomed. Like, it is literally for our survival that we need to figure out, because for eons and eons, we have been making a mess of the mind that we've been given, right? Because the difference between animals and humans, right? Animals act through instinct. They're totally in alignment with the divine or intention or whatever you call it, God. They're completely in alignment. They don't have the mind that we have. Humans have been given the mind. All right? And it has caused us all of our problems. But it is also the way back to, the realization of, oh, I'm not my mind. True enlightenment. An animal can't be enlightened because it doesn't realize that it's a thing just like not in alignment with everything. We realize that we're a thing not in alignment currently with all things. And we become enlightened when we can get past the mind and use the mind as the vehicle to realize, wait a second, I'm watching this thing work. Who am I? If I'm watching the mind, I'm not the mind, then who am I? It's a lot. I know. That's why this book is so good, because he puts it in a way that you're like, oh, okay, I can digest that. But this is the gravity of the situation. He says, it is a quantum leap in the evolution of consciousness, as well as our own chance of survival as a race. That is the gravity of what you're learning right now. And so many people are just not even having this conversation. They're not even present for this. In fact, share this on your pages, guys, so people become aware of this conversation and realize, like, oh, they are the answer to their own problems. They're the source of the issue, and they are the answer to the issue. This is huge. All right, so he gets into, in this last part, like, well, hang on a second. So this is something I run into all the time, where people say, like, okay, so if I'm just supposed to accept everything that is and just be blah, like, do I renounce life? Like, how do I exist in the world if I'm just all accepting to what is? It's like, here's the difference. It's not saying don't go try and create something. It's not saying don't go after some goal. It's not saying let life happen to you and you have no control of anything. It's saying, number one, whatever's present, accept what is, because if you don't, you're creating your own stress. And number two, be non-attached to the fruit of your action. You have the right to action, not the result of action. So yes, set goals. Yes, produce something. Yes, have purpose. Yes, move forward in your life. yes to all of those things, but you need to be emotionally detached from the outcome, because emotions are the mind, which is the insane part of you. Okay? He says the moment you turn your attention to the now, you feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. You no longer depend on future for fulfillment and satisfaction. You don't look at it for your salvation. Therefore, you're not attached to the result. Neither failure nor success has the power to change your inner state of being. You have found the life underneath your life situation. That is probably, in my mind, one of the best paragraphs in the book so far. Like, that will unlock so much for you, because as human beings, most of us are human doings, and we're taught from a young age to achieve, to go out in the world, to get success, and that, you matter when you've got the degree and you've got the good job and you've got the money and you've got all these things. And what he's saying is, like, it's fine to go out there and go do things, but what you need to do is enjoy the process of doing it and not care where it takes you. And just know the process of enjoying the process is life. You'll be there for every beautiful thing that you come across. The moment your attention turns to the now, he says, you will feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. Everyone is seeking presence, stillness, peace. Everyone's seeking it. And they think, oh, when I have the job, I'll be less stressed and I'll be at peace. Oh, when I have the money. Oh, when I have the partner. Oh, when I have the dog. Oh, when I have the insert whatever the thing is for you, my fulfillment will happen in the future when that thing occurs. And guys, the future never comes. And what he's saying is that no. If you are attached to some result down the road, you're never going to have peace now, because you're not in the present moment and there's no way for you to enjoy the now. So the key is emotional detachment. And when you are non-attached, you are able to move deeper. So he gets into the whole goal thing more on page 57 and 58. And he says, someone asked the question, in that state of wholeness, would we still be able or willing to pursue external goals? And he says, yeah, but just know you're already complete. And when you realize that, then there's a playfulness, a joyousness, energy behind everything that you're doing. And that's the thing we're all after. We want the joy. We want the fun, right? And he says, once you realize that the future thing isn't what has it and that the joy is for right now, then you're good to go. You're free of psychological time. You're no longer feeling, how's he write it? You no longer pursue your goals with grim determination, driven by fear, anger, discontent, like life is not good now, it's going to be good then. You're no longer driven by that, or the need to become someone, have some status in society. And he says, you know what? You will remain inactive for fear of failure, which is the ego, if you allow yourself to be in that state. You don't seek permanency where it cannot be found, in the world of form, of gain, of loss, of birth and death. People are trying to find stability, solid ground, security, external, when the money comes, when the relationship comes, when all the thing comes, right? But he's saying, no, it's within you. If it's out there, you're off center because you're leaning on something else. And he's saying, no, it's right inside of you. All right, it is absolutely right inside of you. Joy is now. Yes, exactly, Lou. Joy is right now. The last thing he says is, you don't demand that situations, conditions, places, or people should make you happy and then suffer when they don't live up to your expectations. Like, how many people have created their own suffering because their child did something they didn't like, their spouse did something they didn't like, their parent did something they didn't like, their boss, their customer, their insert other human being or politician, whatever, they're human too, right? He says again, don't demand that situations, conditions, places, or people should make you happy. The moment you do that, you're in trouble. Expectations are the seeds of frustrations. You will then suffer when they don't live up to your expectation. And you have created your own suffering, my friend. He says, knock it off. Absolutely knock it off. So, hopefully that was insightful for you. This is a fun one to play with because this is everything. Like, all of us have these emotions we talked about. Like, they're normal. It's part of the human condition. But the question is how to resolve it. And Marie, I'm happy that you kept asking, like, but how? And it's like, it's not complicated. it's so simple, it almost seems like, well, no way, that can't work. It does. It does. How do your feet feel right now with whatever they're touching? Now you're in the moment. Now that problem doesn't exist. Now your being is peaceful. The moment you bring the problem in, your being's not peaceful anymore. All right. We did it. Half hour. Look at us. So next week, we've got chapter 4. Let's see. It starts on page 59. How long is this guy? It goes to 76. So that's kind of long. I'm guessing we should probably split this one up. So probably around page like 68. Let's see if there's a good stopping point. Let's stop at page 68, where he says, wherever you are, be there totally. Looks like the start of a new, wherever you are, be there totally. So we'll stop. Can't believe we're on week 5 already. So we'll stop there. Page 59 to page 68, because I just don't think we can talk more about like 10 pages. So it's so deep. So thank you all for being here. I know for those of you in the U.S., it's Labor Day, so I'm glad that you would be here on the holiday, and appreciate you all. As always, like, put comments, questions in Telegram. If there's more stuff, Maria, I would love to hear how it goes in the evening if you try this ability to just kind of pay attention to your senses and see how it goes, all of you. And as always, guys, share this video, put it out on your pages, tag people that you think need to hear this message. This is, as he said, something humanity needs, and the gravity of it in his mind, in his words, is that it's our survival. So with that, I will say bye for now, and have a beautiful day.